So we should probably open the show talking about it. Since it's weird. The Habs were down 3-1 since the last time we recorded. Game 5 happened, then Game 6 happened. I think what we really need to mention about Game 5 really is it was almost the same way Game 6 went, to be honest. And I guess we can start at the end. It led with, if you rewatch both goals, the Leafs turned it over in the exact same spot. It's just in Game 5 and 6, it went one way. Sorry, in Game 5, it went one way to Jack Campbell. And in Game 6, Byron made the pass to Kotkaniemi in front.
Right.
Very similar ways the game ended. Again, it was like the first shot was like Montreal's overtime in both cases. It was horrible. Yeah. So how are you guys feeling here? Because I'm not going to lie, I'm feeling pretty good myself right now.
That would make a lot of sense, and I don't blame you for it.
Mm-hmm. What's that things like I don't know about you, but I'm feeling, what's the quote?
I know it's a song. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Off the top of my head. It's been a rough 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. I'm just I'm tired from not specifically from one side, but just the way it's been like an emotional roller coaster for these games, because the back and forth, the whole, like the little sub dramas we have here and there. It's like, no, Marner, what are you doing? The officiating. You know what I keep thinking of? You know what I thought about in the overtime? This is one thing I'm going to talk about since we were on the topic of Will Baldwin.
Okay.
The whole thing where he said goalies love it when they see more shots than they don't.
I was actually really worried at the beginning of the game because obviously Montreal came out flying, as was expected. And I was worried that Price wasn't getting a lot of shots, because if you get to him, if you start throwing pucks on that early on Carey Price, you're not going to beat him. But I was worried there was going to be that one bad turnover for Montreal. It was going to go the other way, and Toronto were going to bury one. But yeah, like that was the thing with Campbell is at no fault of his own, and technically a good thing for the Leafs is they just controlled so much of overtime. Campbell wasn't facing anything. Like, again, it was the second shot for Montreal that beat him in overtime,
and it was tipped too.
Yeah. And it was a combination of a terrible giveaway and Bogosian, who was trying to block the shot. I mean,
that one hurt.
Don't get mad at me, Alex, but technically he did score the overtime winner.
He did. You know what? Will pointed that out last night. At the time, I was having none of it. I had a few choice words about plenty of guys on the Leafs, but
yeah.
But no, like it is comical.
But can we also say Jeff Petrie scored the tying goal?
I guess, yeah, technically.
Man, I'll tell you, I remember for the fourth time, I was at the game. I can't remember.
Were you at the game?
I was at the
you
game.
were at the game?
I was at the game.
It's like Mike in the cottage.
I can't actually remember the Leafs goals. Like, they were completely like just blank. I had these two Leafs fans backed diagonally from me.
Yeah.
Weren't having their mask on, by the way. Security had to talk to them. They kept moving seats, which was against the rules. And every time the Leafs had the puck in the zone, I think the girls sounded Swedish. It was really weird. Go Leafs, like, skate Mar. And of course, naturally, as the game went on, they got very upset, and there were some very choice words not suitable for the children that were also around. But oh man, I'll tell you, it was rough. It was rough. But being in there, I think we should first talk about the experience before we get into the game.
Yes.
Of the Bell Center having fans back in, because if you thought that didn't give Montreal a boost before the game, I think you were proven wrong very quickly. Because holy cow!
I mean, like even just watching the difference between the first 5 games and the rest of the American series, where all of them had fans in it, like there was a difference in the way the players played per se. Like it was they had an extra amount of energy from the fans. And look at that Tampa Florida series. It got out of control a little bit, whatever, that's fine, but there was an extra something there that really pushed them.
It's pretty surreal to me to see the fans to actually hear the boos of Alex Galchenyuk and know they're authentic.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was Gouch. I think it was Nylander and Matthews were the threes that whenever they touched it, Like even like obviously later in the game, like people were getting tired and they couldn't chant as much. I was still booing the hell out of the three whenever I could. Like I like just despite the other Leafs fans in the section, like I could not stop myself. It was man, I'll tell you, I woke up with a hockey hangover today. Like I sat up from my bed and I was like, oh no, I can't do this. I'm surprised my voice is still intact because in the HFR, it cracked when I was talking about Corey Perry. So I was like, Corey Perry. It sounded terrible. I'll tell you though, it's very difficult to describe the feeling of stepping back into an arena again. Like I just couldn't stop smiling. And when I went up and I sat in my seats, right? Funny enough, it was in the section where I normally have my seats. So that was a pretty neat coincidence.
Yeah.
And I took the picture, right? And I threw it on Instagram. I was like, I can't describe the feeling of this. I started crying when I took the picture.
Yeah.
It was, it was, but then you start getting the feeling of like, I compared it in the video to being back in high school after the summer. Like nothing has changed. This all feels great. And like the anthem of doing it together with Madame Debo on the organ. It felt so good. And like when they do the starting lineup, booing the Leafs starting lineup, being able to chant Carey Price's name again, I'll tell you, guys, it was. I'm my eyes are watering up right now talking about it. It was probably, and I've been to playoff games before. I've been to home openers, but last night may have been the most special game I've ever been to. Just for the thing of it's a step back to normal life again. Can't describe it.
No, I think that's everything. Like, even though it was only 2,500 people, that's besides the point. It's like we've kind of been stuck in one place for the last 15 months or so, and like to go back to like some type of normalcy. It's like we haven't seen each other in 15 months. Like the last time I saw either of you was March 2020. Right? So it's like to go to even like this is beyond going to like a patio. This is like going to a hockey arena. Like this is a completely different thing. So I fully get that.
Just one more little selfish thing for me. The last game I went to was February 8th, 2020. Ilya Kovalchuk scored the game-winning goal for the Habs, 2-1 in overtime against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there we go, a 3-2 overtime win for the Montreal Canadiens. First chance I get to go back to the Bell Center. Okay, first off, let's go into the game here. Something I've really enjoyed from this series, and I think because there have been some lopsided score games like early in the series, the goalie duel between Jack Campbell and Carey Price has probably been my favorite part of this series, and we continued to see that last night. That first period especially, Jack Campbell was lights out. The crowd were obviously taunting him because that's Montreal. Right. No, you guys know my mom's a diehard Habs fan. Like she hates the other team. She felt bad for Jack Campbell, which is like the sun rising at the other end. It doesn't make any sense. I felt bad for him, man.
I just like to say before. Sorry, Alex.
No, go ahead.
I'd like to say shout out to Adam's mom because we know how diehard of a fan she is after the Thomas Plekanec situation.
Oh yeah.
Why did you say something wrong or something?
You got
when I mistakenly said Leafs legend Thomas Plekanec.
You said it again. You said it again.
No, I said I mistakenly.
Am I gonna have to bleep that? Am I gonna have to bleep that out?
No. I admit my fault during that situation. I'll call it the Thomas Plekanec incident.
Yes. Plekanec's gate.
that'll be another shirt. We're just coming up with great shirt ideas here. Yeah, I guess I do kind of feel bad for Jack Campbell, but it's like it's a playoff game, man. Like I expected that. When you have fans in the building, I fully expected it to be exactly as you described it.
I used to boo Jack Campbell.
Why?
When I went to the World Juniors, and he's playing for the United States, and then he doesn't do this anymore. I think I've mentioned this already. He doesn't do this anymore, but because he beat Canada in 2010, and then in 2011 TSN interviewed him before the next game, and then he said, "I don't know, they didn't learn their lesson from last year." And I'm like, all right, I don't like this guy.
That doesn't sound like Jack Campbell.
I know, right?
Hold on. Okay, so what did you think of Trevor Zegras then when he basically said Canada weren't tested at all?
I call that the Chris Pronger test because another example. I know I'm going a bit off topic right now. On 2006, the Edmonton Oilers beat the last Mighty Ducks team in the conference finals. I'm like, I will never like anybody on this team, on this Oilers team.
Like Troy Terry?
And then he gets traded to the Ducks in 2000 in the off season. This is the year before the Ducks won the cup. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, awesome. They got Chris Pronger. I'm hyped. So it flips like that sometimes.
I want to read you guys, last note on the quick goalie duel here. I want to read you a tweet from Greg Wyshynski. I remember a couple years ago, there was a video I saw come up in my YouTube feed about who are the most overrated players in the NHL. The cover of the video had Carey Price and Erik Karlsson in it. So I click on it. It's Greg Wyshynski. And, he goes on to say it. He says Price and Karlsson are overrated. By the way, Erik Karlsson's not overrated. He can't skate anymore because Matt Cook destroyed his leg. And he single-leggedly carried the Sens to a conference final appearance. This is a tweet he had last night. There's actually one before this about UC Saros, but I'm not going to mention it. So, Greg Wyshynski on Twitter. Carey Price played really well in overtime on a series of unscreened shots, which don't produce the kind of deflections that the Habs got on the game winner. The kind that eventually beat a goalie like Carey Price. Listen, I don't know if it's the tone of that, but it really feels like he belittled that overtime when, and we had a bit of a conversation over text last night. And one of the first things you said to me, Alex, and that was it was Carey Price, holy cow.
Yeah.
It feels like the guy has a vendetta. It's not only him. Like, remember earlier in the season when Jeff Merrick was like, yeah, Carey Price, he's the reason Julian got fired. And don't forget, these guys Merrick and Wyshynski had a really famous podcast back in the day. So I think these two have a vendetta against Carey Price. I just don't get it.
I don't get this tweet because it sounds sarcastic, but I don't get the tone here. I don't know what he's trying to convey. But with the Merrick thing, I think it goes back to that Alain Vigneault quote where it's like, what did he say? Goalies.
If your goalie is better than mine, then you win. If my goalie is better than yours, ignoring the fact that the Habs had the same pitfalls for 3 years.
Right.
And maybe that had more to do with Claude Julien getting fired. Probably. But that's just me. It's not like I've been watching this team nonstop for how long. What do I know, though?
No, I don't know. No, it's fair. Like, I don't know. He's not, like, here's the thing, the way I put it, because when I was watching the game last night, like, I think a lot of the shots that the Leafs took were just horribly misplaced. Like, there's a formula to beating Carey Price in a way that you're going to score greasy goals. That's the only way it's going to get done most of the time. Mm-hmm. So I guess he's right, but like he played and he has played for the entire series some of the best hockey I've ever seen.
There's a thing with Carey Price is that the biggest thing with him is he's a black hole he's described himself as. What makes Price a special goalie is his positioning. So if you see pucks hit him in the chest or go right into his glove, that's his game. That's what he's perfected. Like, that's what won him a Vezina trophy. Right. Anyway, I mean, honestly, I think his 41 saves, speaks for itself. Okay, going more to the game is, I have this other tweet up here, and I think it's probably the biggest concern I think Leafs fans are going to have after last night's game. This is from Sergey. This is Bearsin_goal on Twitter. Yeah. Not sure if this has been mentioned, but my brother-in-law sent me this interesting breakdown of Mitch Marner's penalties in the playoffs. I checked and it's correct. Mitch Marner has 6 minor penalties in the playoffs. 5 of them were for delay of game. Now, this is a big issue because last night, once the Habs were on the power play after the delay of game for the Keefe challenge, which we'll get to in a little bit here, Mitch Marner has the puck. He has the room to clear. He has room actually to keep skating. And I don't know, like, we all know how good Mitch Marner is in the penalty kill. He's phenomenal. And he just, no pressure on him at all. Just yeets it over the glass. Like, clear as day delay a game. I don't know if it's a mental thing with Mitch, but it's just the playoffs for him. It's just, there's something off there. And it's a big problem for the Leafs right now.
It's extremely concerning for me. Like in so many ways, it's kind of scary. Like how, so he's that first line, Hyman, Matthews, Marner, has been very odd because it hasn't on the points. It has not, or like goals and assists has not looked great. But I think Matthews and Hyman have looked, with the exception of last night for Matthews, that line, those two guys have looked really good. Marner has not invisible, but he has not looked good most of the playoffs. And it's extremely concerning, especially his quotes.
Yeah, it felt rinse and repeat. You know what I mean?
I know exactly.
Yeah, it's
what
like
you mean.
we need to get better.
I think it was the first loss against the Sens the Leafs had earlier in the year, and Marner had that kind of quote. Alex, I remember you saying, like, I've heard this before. It's the typical what kind of stung me about those quotes is Mitch said something along the lines of, "We didn't come prepared." When I think it was Bogosian said, and I thought Bogosian was good, by the way. It's just that third pairing. It's just the other guy has just not been amazing, right? And that, like Sandin and Dermott. And Bogosian said, "We're going to come into this game like it's our game 7." And for Mitch to kind of say, "We didn't come prepared." I mean, what did you expect coming into Montreal when, like, forget just the fans, like the Habs players have their families there for the first time and they're fighting for their lives. What were you not prepared for?
I don't know.
I think, like, for me, and I'm not saying this is accurate, but I kind of feel that he does feel that added pressure now. And again, I'm not saying that like it is inexcusable, but it's just the fact that when I mentioned before, John Tavares is not there, where suddenly that second line is a bit thinner. It's still good, but it's not John Tavares good.
But the second line has been the best line for the entire series.
Yeah, that's what I kind of feel. Where like I think that for him, it's that mental thing where it's like, okay, now like the Leafs still have that balance, but it is a bit more top heavy now if you put Marner and Matthews there. And I know that on the practice today, like Nylander is back with Matthews, and
Good.
yeah, I think they probably should have done this a while ago, but. Again, I don't know. Like, I think it is a mental thing for him. If I'm going to talk from experience on watching this and the whole mental game thing, I'm thinking of Marc-Andre Fleury about, post 2011, what happened to him in the playoffs. And it more or less, like, it looks kind of the same.
So what you're saying is they have to trade him to Seattle, Marner to Seattle now. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I mean, he was good. Like, I keep in mind, he got them to the playoffs in 2016. The thing is, they overplayed him, and then Matt Murray came in when Fleury got injured.
Yeah, Fleury got them like halfway there, had a bad game, and they're like, all right, there you go, Matt Murray. Your time is up. Oh, sorry, your time is now, good sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Just the frustrating thing is they bring in all these guys to deal with this pressure and start and quote unquote start on time, and it's like everyone has seemed to got the message except Mitch Marner. I didn't hear Matthew say anything like that last night.
Yeah, it was, and I hate mentioning, you guys know I hate mentioning contracts and players, but it was said the moment he signed that contract that the 90-point player, the guy who's top 5 in scoring in the regular season, that's required. That's the auto standard. And we talked about, especially the last few weeks, the regular season does not mean a damn thing. All of that goodwill is forgotten. And we can look in Canada, we can look out in Alberta to see exactly how that looks right now with McDavid.
Yep.
And this is where Mitch has to step up. And especially, it's so weird because obviously he's a big part of the power play, and that's been another massive struggle still. And it feels like when Montreal attack, they can somehow keep the Leafs at bay, right? But then the moment Montreal, and then when they're in that sort of battle, whenever the Leafs can get into the zone, they hold the puck for too long. It feels like they're almost afraid to take shots, but then they wait until Montreal take away the pressure and start defending in like the back half of the game. Too early sometimes to Montreal's detriment, we've seen. It just feels like, guys, like, you're the Leafs. And I saw somebody breaking down a play where they're off the rush, and Zach Hyman sort of slows down and takes himself as a scoring option, and the defenseman can take away Marner from the play. It just feels like sometimes.
How's it going, Alan?
Just one more thing too. It's like, obviously, I could tell last night when Matthews had the puck because there's a booing sound. But sometimes it feels like he's having it a little less often, like on the power play too. But sometimes I don't know if I'm misseeing things, because obviously I pay more attention to Montreal's players during games than the Leafs. When the Leafs have the puck, I'm praying, get it away from them and go back the other way, please.
Right.
But it feels like the Leafs are playing with a little less possession in their game, which is probably the opposite is what they need. That's their game. That's their bread and butter.
It feels like, in terms of the first line at least, and we can end the power play. The thing with the power play is the power play has been an issue for the last 3 to 4 years. And it's like, I don't know what cracks the code here, because they go on these runs where the power play looks so good, where it's like, okay, guys, don't change a thing. Keep it like this. And then it just dissolves away. But I do think that Montreal and that first line, I'm assuming, I don't remember who was the left winger last night, but the Deneau and Gallagher line. I think last night Evans and whoever's there, Tatar, I guess, is usually on that line as well.
Yes.
Has done a really good job at stopping Matthews. And that's quite evident in the fact that line has 1 goal.
That is true, yeah. Sorry, go on.
I feel like the Leafs, and I think that it got crisp in overtime, save for the goal, but it just, nothing was being crisp. Like, the passes weren't there. And I think with the power play, or even what you said with the first line, and in terms of those offensive schemes, they're just not adapting. They're, again, throwing what has been successful before, but they're not finding ways around it. And I think that's just been the most frustrating thing as a fan to see right now. And they did manage to get those goals, but like the way I saw these goals, where they were not looking for the perfect shot, they were just getting the puck on net.
Which is the thing you don't want to do against Carey Price.
Yeah.
It's really funny you mentioned the passing, by the way, Daniel, because that same Leafs fan I was telling you about, who was going on about Simmons, my friend Cameron, he called me today. He's like, Adam, I can't tell you how many times I was trying to keep track of how many passes the Leafs made and failed. And I was like, damn, that's not great.
It was a lot.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna move on to Keith's challenge. So if anything else you want to say, go ahead.
It's just, everything is very frustrating with the entire situation. And I want to be clear. I'm not bashing Marner, the person, because I think a lot of that has gone on. Last night I was really upset, and I said some very poor words to Mike, but I would never tweet it. It's the mental game there. It's like Daniel's right in saying, I think he's overthinking a lot of what's going on. And it's like, Mitch, take a step back. It's like one of the guys, Jumbo, Bogosian, I don't care, Foligno, I don't care who it is, needs to sit down with Mitch one-on-one, or Keith, whoever, and have a conversation and say, listen, I know what's going on. Let's move past this. Let's figure this out.
Mitch Marner's a game breaker, but at some point you don't need to try and do too much. Just keep it simple.
You need the Brent Seabrook, Jonathan Taves conversation.
I was thinking of that, Daniel, and I forgot. God dang it. You do. You do. Nick Foligno goes and says, listen, buddy, just drink some Mountain Dew, get rid of the mullet, it's bad, and then we move on.
Call Matt Martin.
Yeah. All right. So I feel like this series has easily had the worst pair of coach's challenge I have ever seen. Ducharme's was worse, like not even a question. Yeah. But like, I know it was Corey Perry, and I was hesitant to celebrate the goal myself. But man, he was nowhere near Campbell, and even like Tyler Toffoli barely impeded on him. I thought, that was a real brutal one. I'm pretty sure his explanation after the game was, there's a lot going on there, which is.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with that answer is what it is.
I think last night in general was just a really poor night for Keefe. That coach's challenge did not help. My God, I don't know what he saw. Like when I saw him try to challenge it, I'm thinking, what are you watching? Like, what angle do you possibly have that is so different that we don't see?
I think it overemphasizes the crowd because the way like the crowd at the crease. But the way I see it is that Campbell already committed to the initial shot, and he's already down. Like there was no way anyone was trying to prevent him from getting back into position. It's just I think like Keith overemphasized the fact that there was that Tyler Toffoli, like I guess like crowd he created with there, and then just the fact that Corey Perry was able to just like slide it in.
Yeah, that was such a Corey Perry goal, by the way. And it feels like, by the way, with the exception of the two game winners for Montreal in these overtime games, it feels like a lot of Montreal's goals have been such those greasies that it's at a time when, and I'm not blaming Campbell for this, I'm just kind of breaking out the play. Like Campbell will make the move to go down, and then it's just Montreal win the net front battle and get the greasiest, scummiest goals you've ever seen. And it's like, oh, so that's what you've been trying to do, and it's finally working because you're actually going to the areas. Cool.
It's funny because literally after we recorded last episode, on that last episode, you said they're not getting below the hash marks. And literally like the next two games, they did. And it worked.
Call me crazy. I know something about this game.
Adam on the bench.
A lot. Yeah, you hire me. I couldn't
Yes.
do. Do you guys see, by the way, these commercials with Mario Tremblay and Patrick Waugh?
Yeah, those
Yes,
are odd.
It's like it's weird to see them okay again, and I wonder if a part of this is Patrick. It's the media tour, and he's trying. Here's the thing. I joked about it in the video. Everyone, go check that out. By the way, it's cool if the Habs can win this series, but it's kind of bad because then it means Burge and Dom are probably back. But at the same time, it's like I can deal with that if we can beat the Leafs. You know what I mean? Like that's a W. I can put up with that because like we can deal with that.
Did you say W?
W. A big dub, as some would call it a big dub. All right. Anything else you guys want to handle Leafs Toronto?
Yeah, just the thing about, I mean, we had the series isn't over yet, and we're already talking about firing Dubas, which I think is beyond me.
Man,
He did his
Keith is
job.
gone. Keith is gone before Dubas, by the way, if there is a firing to be made.
I also don't think Keith should be fired either. Like I don't understand that sentiment. Like, okay, first off with Dubas, fine. You want if your argument is he signed those contracts, then my God, let's go through the laundry list of GMs who are still under contract who have signed horrible deals. That is not a great argument to start with. He put this team together, and it worked throughout the entire regular season. And I get the regular season at this point means nothing. But if you looked at the quotes and you looked at the energy from this team, it is different from years in the past. At this point, this should not solely, but the majority of the blame should be put on the players, which I have been trying to do for the last 2 years. After Mike Babcock is fired, this is on the players.
Yeah.
Right? Like
There's no fail safe anymore. It is on this team because I agree. Kyle Dubas has done everything he needed to do, and finding good deals on them as well to kind of really address everything that this team has lacked. Everything that even the armchair GMs have said, oh, they lack toughness. All right, look how many tough guys. John Tavares is not a true leader. Okay, I don't agree with that, but he is a great captain. But even more leadership into the lineup. They have guys that, like I think of like Spezza and Thornton. These guys that were intentional of wanting to sign the minimum to play for Toronto. That he did what he could. TJ Brody again, like we talk about Tyson Barrie, but TJ Brody, like he knew where he went wrong. Dubas with the trade initially, and he fixed it. And I don't think so. He's on the hot seat for this because, again, it's what we see on the ice right now because they've been given all the tools.
Here's the totem pole of repercussions if the Leafs were to lose. Which, like first off, the rest of the series does not matter going to Game 7. Like it's Game 7, nothing matters anymore. if you have a list of who is to blame, it's first is Mitch,
Yep.
which would then become trade Nylander because he's the only one you can't trade. I saw a really funny tweet about that saying Mitch Marner's poor play is going to get Nylander traded. And I was like, God, that's so true. And then it's like if there was another thing, like if Keefe has an egg, like lays an egg of a coach in Game 7, maybe. And then at the bottom is Kyle. And like the gap between Mitch and Sheldon is enormous. But like that's the totem pole.
Yeah, this is how I look at the series for the Leafs. When your top forwards are in this order, I'd say William Nylander, Jason Spezza, and Alex Kerfoot. That is extremely worrying to me that Matthews and or Marner are not a part of this list.
I'll tell you though, I'm not surprised by Spezza because that man
Neither am I.
just lights up the Habs. Always has,
But-
and it's astounding.
Not
The
even
Ottawa
that,
Senator swagger.
He looked
Yes.
he looked like one of the best Leafs against Columbus. Like this is a pattern
fought.
here for Jason Spezza. He fought exactly. It's like, why is it 37? No offense, but 37-year-old Jason Spezza seems to be one of the only guys consistently showing up for this team.
Well, lads, I say we move on now because
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time there, and we
Let's
still have a Game 7 to look forward to on Monday.
I'm so nervous. I don't know. I feel a bit sick.